Welcome to Learn or Be Learned. This is the podcast show where I read books and share how you can apply it to your life. And, like a true anthropologist, I dig up stories on what people are up to and how that can impact you as well. Before we jump into episode 9, I just want to let you know that the normal outro is going to be replaced with Rodney Allen's music to share a little bit about how and what he does. And without further ado, let's just jump into episode 9. I'm your host, Shiva Danishekar, and let's do this. All right, so I'm here with AJ. How are you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. How are you, bro?
I'm good. So, we talked a little bit before this, and we were talking about your music. I was wondering if you could share a little bit about what you do, what you're currently up to.
Yeah, so I go by the stage name Rodney Allen.
Okay.
That's actually my real name. My full name is Rodney Allen Snoxhill Jr., so I just took Rodney Allen. Just wanted to be original whenever I was coming up with a name, and I figured the most original you can get is your actual name.
Yeah.
And I've been making music since about 2015, early 2016.
Okay.
And like I was telling you earlier, just kind of started off just messing around with some friends, just trying to find something good to do, fun to do. And it turned into a lot more. And whenever I ended up becoming serious about it and ended up meeting Jay and realized that you can actually take your sound so much more, he showed me how to get it on DistroKid, and then after DistroKid you can get on Spotify, Apple Music, and all that. And once your music is actually on all platforms, you feel like you're more of an established artist than that. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I have one EP out that has 3 songs on it. That was my own Biggest Fan EP that came out in September 20th of this year. And then after that, I've dropped 3 songs since then. Once a month, I just drop a new song. It can be anywhere from melody to just straight rapping, and I try to keep it mixed up so that way I can get new fans regardless of what kind of rap they like to listen to,
So you said you have 60,000 monthly listeners, right?
Yeah, so right now it has dropped a lot. Spotify fluctuates a lot. The most listens I have is I'm at about 65,000 streams.
Wow.
This month I only did about 2,000 listeners, but I did generate about 10,000 streams this month from those 2,000 listeners, which is amazing because that means that they're listening more than once, which is definitely what you want. You want people who will listen a few times. So yeah, and that was mind blowing for me whenever I first dropped that EP. The reason it being called my own Biggest Fan is because that was my first time ever dropping something that I was proud of, and regardless, I had that mindset of, I don't care if anybody listens to this. I love this music. I will listen to it.
It's a good mindset.
And you got to have that mindset whenever you're doing anything that people might look down on or might not agree with or might not like in general. And so you just got to be your own biggest fan sometimes. And then whenever I started promoting it, I started doing Instagram ads. I started putting ads out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I started submitting to hip hop and music blogs, Spotify playlisting. Yeah. And I would have never imagined that in 2 months I had 65,000 people that listened to me.
Wow.
Right.
So you went from 0 to 65,000 in 2 months. So what was that growth curve like? Was it slow starting off?
It was, for the first 3 weeks I had maybe 200 plays. But then I landed one of my first Spotify playlists and I can't remember which one it was, but that one took me to about 5,000 plays. And then from there, those people started listening more than once. And then I got another Spotify playlist. I ended up in about 3 or 4. And all of those generated about 5,000 to 10,000 listeners. And then I would say over half of those listeners listened more than once, which was pretty amazing of them.
Yeah. So you got to 65,000. And I think we talked about this earlier. You said you did marketing and stuff to really push that. So I guess someone who's listening that's kind of starting off or about to start off, what would you suggest they do to get their music? I guess how to get it on Spotify, how to, grow their fan base, push their music out, actually get people to see it.
Yeah. So the simplest way to get your music out is through a distributor. So that's going to be DistroKid, TuneCore. Those are the only ones that I can think of off the top of my head. There's other ones like CD Baby, things like that. And you really got to look because a lot of them have different things. So I know that TuneCore, I'm pretty sure you have to pay every time that you release it, but it stays on there forever and you get to keep all of your royalties. I chose DistroKid because it was cheaper. You get to keep all of your royalties, and there's just a bunch of different little things that you can do with DistroKid that I really liked. It really just depends on what your budget is, what you're wanting to do. I can't remember which one it is, but there is one where you can actually submit to your music to be on like 2K and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. But I went with DistroKid, so I ended up putting it on there, and that's probably the easiest way. It costs like $40, and then your music is on all platforms, and that's the best way to start. SoundCloud is obviously where everybody goes to at the beginning, simply because it's free, and you know, everybody puts their music. Every rapper has put their music on SoundCloud, you know. And then it just comes to marketing. So you want to start off with the people that you know first, the people that you know will listen to it. And so you send it to all your friends, and then you ask them to send it to their friends. And then that alone can get you at least like 100 people to listen to it. And if you can get 100 people, you can get 200. You just got to keep thinking of like, I like to think of it by tens, right? So if I can get 10 people to listen to my music, and then they get 10 people to listen to my music, you got 100 people. Yeah. So you just got to think of it like that. And then from there, you can go Instagram ads. You can spend $5 on Instagram and have 3,000 people look at your song. And at that point, you at least have them in your visual, you know. And then the key is to get them to listen to it. So you want to keep saturating the market with your name. You know, you want them to see your name once, and even if they're like, okay, I mean, that's cool. You want them to see your name again and be like, okay, I heard that last time. I might actually check it out. And then it might take 3 or 4 times, but if they hear your name enough, they're going to at least listen one time. Yeah. You know,
no, for sure. I like how you say monthly listeners, because what you want to create is like a true fan base, because those people will tell other people, and that's how you truly grow. That's, I guess, in the realm of marketing, that's the free, cheapest way to get marketing, right? Is to get true loyal fans that actually like what you do, as opposed to saying like, oh, you know, I have like 200,000 listens. Is that's a lot, but you know, how many of those people really do listen monthly? And
how many of those people save that song into their playlist? How many people of those people followed you? You know, and it's not going to seem like a lot, but followers are hard to come by sometimes, you know. And then saves is another big thing. I have over half the people that listen to my music save my song, but I only have 100 followers, you know? Yeah. People who actually will like want updates on my music. Yeah. So they might save my song to a playlist, but that doesn't, even at that point, it doesn't mean that they're devoted enough to listen to my music and get updates on it, you know?
So would you say subscribers and followers is probably the biggest
number? Yeah. You want to gain followers. So if you have people that are willing to get updates on your music, or even whatever you do, you could do art, you could dance, you could do TikTok, whatever you do. If you don't have people that want to get updates on it every day, every week, then you're still doing that same thing of trying to find those people who want that. And so you got to get those people who see it every day, and then we'll show people every day, or just have somebody looking over their shoulder and be like, who's that guy? You know?
No, I liked how earlier we were talking about how we would hate to be like a one-hit wonder.
Exactly.
Because when you start off with, let's say you get like 100 million listens and you have hella followers, then now you have this expectation to put up, and you don't really know what you're doing yet. You're still getting your foot in the door, and now you have this huge expectation to deliver and make sure your next song or your next episode or whatever you're doing is just as good, if not better. Otherwise you start losing people quick, and then you're, once again, nobody knows who you are again. So I really liked how we talked about that, and how like the journey is the most important part, because that's how you grow, and that's how you really develop into someone who's gets what one hit wonders get, but consistently.
See, and I think a lot of the best part of the journey is you have the opportunity to fail. If you're a one hit wonder, you don't have the opportunity to fail, because you're at this height in your career and you want to maintain it so bad that you will do almost anything to keep it, right? So you don't have the chance to experiment. We were talking about that, experimenting with your music, experimenting with your flow, whatever it might be. You don't have that chance because you now have something that people like, and they want to hear that again. They don't want to hear you go from rap music to pop music or rock music. They want to hear you exactly how you were on that song, or they don't want to hear it anymore. And so you have that opportunity to fail while you're on your journey, and you will fail. Most people do fail. Not everybody can blow up overnight, and that sucks, but it's the journey that'll actually teach you what you want to be with your career, who you want to be, how you want to do it, you know?
No, I agree. I actually talk about this quote all the time, where this lady who's like became really successful, she was in an interview, and she's talking about how her dad every day after school would be like, what did you fail at today? And that's like a really weird question, right? You're like, well, that sounds really negative and whatnot. But the reason he'd ask that question is because he would say, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. And if you're not trying hard enough, you're not growing as a person. I think failing has such a negative connotation, but if you really want to, develop and enjoy the journey, you're gonna get bruised a few times. You're gonna fall, but I think that's the best part for someone who really enjoys what they do. That is the best part, because you grow from that and you see over time. I'm sure you said you only started about 2 months ago on like dropping it on Spotify and stuff, right? So I'm sure in these 2 months you've seen such growth from what you knew when you first started, when you dropped your first song, or when you started recording your first song even. So I think that's really cool.
So even in the past few months, I've seen my share of failures. Like with the whole EP, I ended up surpassing like anything that I thought would be imagined, right? 65,000 listeners, right? And since then, I've seen it drop down significantly to just over a couple thousand at some points. And it's like, okay, what do I need to do better? What do I need to do to get back to that height? And it's almost like chasing the dragon is what they call it. It's like, you want that high again of like, okay, I feel like I'm on top of the world. Like, I feel like my music's really blowing up. I can do anything. And it's like, you just want to constantly be chasing that. With failures, you go through a lot, even whenever you're first starting out, and it sucks because whenever you're starting out, it feels like everything's like against you, But I went from having no followers, no streams, no nothing like that to, in just a span of a couple months, having 65,000, which is a lot. Like I can't wrap my mind around the fact that 65,000 people actually listen to my song, right? And then to go from that to in the past couple of months only having like plus 2,000 listeners, it feels like a failure, but it's like, okay, what do I need to do to get me back to that platform that I felt like I was on, right? And it's not even necessarily that I failed, it's just, what do I need to do, right? And I feel like that alone pushes me even more to want to get to that level again. And I feel like failing actually gets you to a point where you really think about, is this what you want? Is this what you want to do? And if the answer is yes every time you fail, then you know that that's what you're meant to do, and that's what you need to do to have a happy life and be successful. Because it's those people who fail a couple times and they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. It's like, okay, well then you might want to find something different, because if you can't handle failing, then is it really a passion for you,
Yeah, exactly. I think it helps you see what you really like to do. But I also think it's a mindset thing, right? So if you fail at everything and you give up on everything, then that's just a mindset thing. So you have to, I think, embrace failure, but also sense, is this failure, is this obstacles to overcome, the years of input I might have to do, really worth it? Yeah. That's how you kind of test your passions.
And it's looking at it from other people's experiences. So if you look at, I look at other artists, I'm like, okay, did they fail this hard? Like, did they want to do it this bad? And every artist that has made it, and they've always talked about like, okay, I was doing this for 3 years. And like I use Russ as a great example because he's one of my inspirations when it comes to his story and like how he blew up. Like I was telling you earlier, he dropped a song a week for like 80 plus weeks before he blew up. And I'm sure he felt like he was failing at some points, but now he's making millions of dollars doing what he loves because he didn't let those failures get to him. He just kept approaching it different ways every time to get to that platform that he wanted to be at, and he made it, And so there's just so many different people that didn't, like 50 Cent didn't blow up until he was in his 30s. Lil Wayne didn't blow up until his 30s. You don't have to do it overnight. You don't have to be a TikTok sensation. You don't have to be a one-hit wonder. You can keep working at it. And if it happens that way, like, just be ready for what's there. And like I said, the journey is what will prepare you for what's there whenever you finally do blow up.
Yeah. The best part is, after that struggle, after you learn and you got some success under your belt, you can now use that money that you have to blow up to now further your passions along and really develop your skills and hone in on the parts that are your strong suit, and then pay others to do what you really like, what you lack.
Yeah. And that's what I had to learn a lot whenever I first met Jay, is that whenever I first started rapping, like I was telling you earlier, I hated the way I was mixing my voice. I hated the way that my music sounded. And it wasn't just because I'm not good. It was because I just don't know what I'm doing when it comes to mixing vocals. I'm not an audio engineer by any means. And I applaud the people who can do their own audio and make it sound good. But I'm just not one of those people, especially because I don't like to use heavy auto tune. I like to add different melodies to make the accent my voice, if that makes sense. So whenever I finally found somebody that can actually like help me with that, it changed my whole perspective on music and like my voice and like what I can do as an artist. Because whereas I was only doing like songs that I knew I could handle whenever it came to mixing, now I'm doing crazy songs where I'm actually singing and stuff, because I know that he will mix it well enough and do his job, which he's really good at, in order to do those things.
And I'm sure you've seen that your quality and content, like now you have more time to focus on what you actually produce, instead of focusing on the edits and the stuff that you're not good at, and it's taking too long anyways. And I think that's applicable to just about anything you do. If you're doing businesses and you can't, you don't want to be the jack of all trades, and you don't want to try to master everything. You need to, and that might be how you have to start out. You might have to do everything, but it won't be the best. But if what you do and your passion, precedes you, over time, you'll finally be able to, delegate the stuff you're not good at, which I think is great.
Yeah, I really love to watch the show. I really love to watch the show Shark Tank, right? And that's what a lot of those people talk about. Is like they have this huge business. They started it from the ground up. They were doing everything, but even they still, some of them weren't good at marketing. Some of them weren't good at like drawing attention, advertising, like these different things. And so they going into a panel full of people who know how to do all that stuff, and they're asking for help. And I think that's crazy, because you know that you have this business that can make you millions of dollars. You know that you have this, but you just need help, and everybody needs that, right? Because you can't be good at everything. And so I think if you are focusing on the things that you're not good at, it doesn't help you evolve the things that you are good at, because you're too busy trying to better yourself for things that you aren't good at, and you could hire people who are good at it. You know?
Exactly. I see those tattoos. What are they? Are they anything special behind the stories?
On my arm, not really. On my arm, it was just a bunch of cool stuff. So I have this one on my arm is kind of special. So it's like, for those of you who are listening, it's a scene of like aliens in the desert and like UFOs, and they're like abducting people and like killing people. And it's in Arizona on Route 66, right? So my grandma took me on a trip through Route 66, and that was like my first big vacation. We took like 2.5 weeks driving from Arkansas to California, only using Route 66, and we stopped at like all the major spots. It was super cool. Then whenever we got back from California, we ended up taking a trip to North Carolina to see some family. So my entire summer I drove like all the way across the United States, and then I went through like so many crazy places that it was just amazing. And one really cool thing about Route 66 is the movie Cars is 100% based off of it. And I don't think people realize a whole lot of that. Like the Cozy Comb Motel, I actually have pictures. We stayed at the Teepee Motel is what it actually is. And it's these hotel rooms that are like in the shape of teepees. And that's what they base that off of. And then the car Sally on Cars, I met the woman that they based that off of. She owns a diner out there.
Really?
Yeah. And
wow. That's interesting.
it was really, really cool. Yeah. I got to meet her. And like Radiator Springs, that's a real place.
I did not know that.
It's really cool. Whenever I get to show people pictures of that, I'll probably show you some. But
you got it.
It was really dope. It was a really cool experience. And that was my first time actually getting like out of Arkansas and seeing stuff. That was my first time in California. It was amazing. It was super cool to see all those sights. I really like driving opposed to flying. I've never been on a flight, so I can't really. I'm a little biased, but I love driving. So if I'm going anywhere, I want to drive it so that way I can stop at all the different places in the different towns and stuff.
You said you had some other topics you wanted to touch base on?
Yeah, so I know that you're really into like religion and whatnot. Isn't that what you're majoring in?
Yeah. So I'm anthropology and religion.
You've heard of DMT, right? You watch Joe Rogan, I'm sure.
Of course, yeah.
And he's always talking about DMT. So my theory on it, and I would love to get your input. So DMT is, I've done a lot of research on it, and it's like, they call it the spirit molecule because it's the one molecule that every living thing, plants, bugs, everything has the two protons or whatever. I'm not sure what the exact word would be, but they have the two things that create DMT in their bodies, right?
Okay.
So that's what connects every living thing is DMT, right? Scientists say that it's released 3 times in your brain naturally. So whenever you're born, because of the amount of pain that you go through, you're tripping on DMT whenever you're born, right? It floods your brain and the proteins protect your brain whenever you're born. Whenever you dream, that's another time that they think that the pineal gland releases DMT, and that's what produces dreams. And then whenever you die, so the proteins flood your brain whenever you die, and that's why people say they see like their life flash before their eyes, or they have like weird hallucinations right before death. So my theory on it is, I think that every religion is real, because whenever you die and that DMT floods your brain, you're tripping, right? So you're seeing things that you wouldn't normally see. You see things that you can't make up, you know? And so if you're raised Christian or Catholic or whatever God you praise for your entire life, right? So let's just take Christianity because it's like one of the most well-known ones. You believe that you're going to go to heaven right after that, right? If you're saved and you're a good person and whatnot, and you're raised your entire life thinking, okay, this is my moment to die. I'm going to go be with God. So who's to say that whenever you start tripping, your life flashed before your eyes, those proteins flood your brain, and then what happens after that? My theory is that you just trip whatever you believe was going to happen. So if you're a Christian, you just start tripping that you're seeing heaven. And so if you're Buddhist or Hindu or like you believe in nirvana or whatever, you reach nirvana, or that's however, there's so many different religions, and it's not because one is real, it's because all of them can be real, right? And I know that sounds a little crazy, but
no, I get that.
I think that your brain can show you whatever you want to see, right? And so if you do a lot of research on DMT, you hear all these crazy trips, or like ayahuasca, so it's basically DMT, but you're tripping for like 45 minutes instead of just like 15. So you see all these crazy things, right? So who's to say that whenever you die, DMT doesn't make you see heaven, or DMT doesn't make you see nirvana, or you believe in reincarnation? You might have a whole nother life while you're tripping, or just crazy stuff like that. And that's what I think happens, because there's no way that all that DMT floods your brain and just nothing happens. Like you just see your life flash before your eyes. I don't think that could be real. But
I think there's a few points, right? So I think first, I hold this theory. I think that religion was potentially started because of drugs. You know, humans have this unique theory of mind, meaning they're able to empathize and think in other people's shoes. And you need a theory of mind in order to believe in religion. That's why you might not see animals, praying to a god.
Yeah.
It's because we have a theory of mind. There is a chance that drugs contributed to religion. And I actually took this neuroscience in religion course. So how is religion acquired in your brain? And I'm glad you mentioned DMT, because it also points to the fact that, drugs affect the mind, and our mind is what produced these beliefs that we have. So to think that DMT only solidified what you already believe at times of, near-death experience or birth, maybe not even birth, because, you weren't, like, society didn't push you to already believe in religion. So that's why at the later stages of life, you might have a religious, trip or something, right? So, yeah, I think that's completely plausible what you're saying. I really think, DMT, you said the pineal gland, right? Which is when you're dreaming. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I really think so. The way the drugs affect your brain. And what I learned in neuroscience in religion class is that we have these factors that basically contribute to the way we acquire knowledge. So we kind of put them into, I forgot the name they used, but they're basically almost like, let's say, just boxes of what you know and don't know. And or let's say like a tree trunk, the more you learn on that certain category, the tree expands. You might know what an animal is versus not an animal, right? So this microphone is not an animal.
Yeah.
But then you learn what a horse is. Then you see a donkey for the first time, which kind of looks like a horse, but then you realize they're different. And then that slowly expands on what you understand as an animal and not. And that's kind of what, public school tries to do is they try to help you build this foundation of education. And another interesting category is spirituality, is religion. So I think drugs might contribute to the fact that we believe in a religion, and DMT probably exacerbates what you already believe.
Exactly. Yeah. And a really cool study to check out if you want to learn more about it is the Rick Strassman trials, right?
Okay.
So they have, it's called The Spirit Molecule. It's on YouTube. You can check it out. It's about a little over an hour long. But Dr. Rick Strassman was the first doctor approved by the U.S. government to do trials on the effects of DMT, right? And one of the things that really got me thinking about what happens with the DMT after we die is because they say that nobody died during the trials, right? But somehow they know exactly how much DMT it would take to overdose, right? And die.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're tripping so hard that you die from it, do you just stop tripping? What would happen after that? And so that really got me thinking. I was like, there's no way that you go from having the craziest trip of your life to just nothing, right? Or heaven or whatever your afterlife might be. So that's what got me thinking about, like, okay, what if they just never stop tripping? Their body shut down. Because whenever you take DMT, from what I've read, is there's been side effects such as people like forgetting how to breathe, quote unquote, right? Yeah. And it's because your brain is so focused on what's happening right now that it stops. Do you know what it's called whenever like you're breathing or like your heart's beating? It's some type of involuntary movement. So like whenever you're breathing, it's like an involuntary thing, right? So you don't have to tell your body to breathe. Yeah. You don't have to tell your heart to beat, you know what I mean? And so your brain is so focused on it that it forgets that it needs to breathe, right? It forgets that it needs your heart to beat. So I feel like whenever you overdose, it's on DMT, it's not because you're dying and it's killing you. It's because your body is simply not worried about breathing anymore. It's not worried about beating your heart. It's worried about what's happening inside your brain. And so me personally, I don't think that it would just stop all of a sudden, right? So you go past this stage of like just blasting off is what they call it whenever you actually have a DMT trip. And it's insane to think about. And like the research on it, I would definitely check out the Rick Strassman trials because some of those people talk about like their experiences and whatnot. And it's just really insane to think about like that the human mind has that kind of ability in it. Yeah. So one of the off another subject. So whenever I was doing my research, I came across this one lady who was talking about her ayahuasca trip, which ayahuasca is the same thing as DMT. It makes it longer, right? It makes it longer and more intense. And this lady was talking about how she went to this tribe in the Amazon and she took ayahuasca, and she said that she felt her body be sucked down into hell, and she spent what she felt like was 2 years in hell, right? Ooh, wow. And she was just every day fighting with the devil, telling the devil that she's a good person, telling her that she doesn't deserve to be there and whatnot. And she ended up getting in what she called like a screaming match with the devil one day, where she was saying that she deserves to be in heaven and blah, blah, blah. And the devil said that he would give her one more chance. And then she woke up. Like she came to back alive, and she completely switched her entire life to following Christ. And that's insane to me that because whenever you hear all these people when they're talking about DMT, you feel it. Like it's not like whenever you take acid or something where it's like subconscious, like you're still awake and you still have some movement in your brain going on. It's like it completely consumes you, right? Okay. And so you have no sense of time, no sense of anything really. And it's just crazy that you're in this present moment, right? And you feel everything that you're feeling. She really thought that she was arguing with the devil. She really thought that she was stuck in hell. And then just to come back from that's going to change somebody's life, right? And so I think it's a really life-changing thing. And it's crazy to think about that every single human has that sitting in their brain. And it's just whenever it wants to be triggered, it gets triggered, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, like you said, with the DMT, it sounds like she had some internal struggles that came to light. And like you said, with the whole, it helps you with the pain of, being born and dying. I think DMT would really, and there's a reason, our bodies produce this at that moment, is to aid us in those moments. But what's interesting is your mind is flooded and busy doing something else and not occupying the pain that you feel right before you die. And then I guess the weirdest thing is to think what exactly happens after life, right? I was watching this thing about dimensions. So, one dimension is just anything linear. Time is one dimensional. Basically, it's like a straight line linear. And then 2 dimension is, like a piece of paper or something, right? If you draw a square on a paper, that's 2-dimensional. And the way you make dimensions is, so you take a stick and then you take another stick and make it 90 degrees. That's 2 dimensions. You take a third stick and make it 90 degrees to both of those. And that's 3-dimensional, right? So you got the X, Y, and Z planes, and that's the world we live in. Space is 3-dimensional. But to fathom, there's believed there's more dimensions than that.
Yeah.
So to fathom that, right? So the universe is said to possibly be even up to 7 dimensions. And that's where the theory about the, parallel universes and it just gets crazy, like this, like quantum physics and all this stuff, right? So they're saying like every choice you make creates this new like alternative path to life. So it's almost like the Schrodinger cat thing, right? So you don't know if the cat's alive or dead, but you only know one side so you open the box and you only know one like reality.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so let's take the cat, right? So the box is closed. You don't know if the cat is dead or alive. There's like this radioactive thing in it. And there's like a switch that either turns it on or off. So you don't know if the cat's dead or alive. And when you have the box closed, you're still in this one reality. Then you open it. Now the reality splits into 2. One reality where you see the cat alive and the other where you see it dead. So that's why this whole like every decision creates this another alternative universe. And that's where like the idea of like 7 dimensions, and
like the butterfly effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think drugs might even could help you understand the idea of that.
Yeah.
Maybe hallucinogens or DMT, and it's really, that's what makes it even weirder to understand what afterlife is.
Exactly.
Because if life is so intricate to the point where we have alternative universes or multi dimensions, then what exactly happens when that all stops?
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I think, everybody says it's the one question that nobody knows, but everybody's going to have to figure out one day, right? So I actually used to be terrified of dying, right? But then I just started thinking about it, like everybody has to die, right? Everybody's got a day. And so the more time you spend worrying about that, the less time you have living your life. But it's just crazy to me to think about the fact that we have all these different things that we can do to our brain that change our perception of reality. And everybody's living in a different reality, right? And so it's just insane. Like just you will never have this, you'll never perceive something the same way as somebody else, right? So like, let's say me and you both see a picture of something, right? I will never in a million years think the exact same thing or feel the exact same way you feel about that. It could be similar. It could be very close. We could even think like, oh, that's cool. But like, I will never feel it exactly how you felt it, or I will never see it exactly how you saw it. And every person is like that.
And part of that is because the life experience you had to that point is what shaped the way you see it. So let's say we see this picture and then we're both like, oh, that looks like a butterfly. But the way I came to that conclusion and the way you came to it might have been developed, in a different way. And that's why I really like doing these podcasts, man. I like you said, everyone's life is different, and I really want to hear all these people's stories because, you only have one.
So one crazy thing that really got me, whenever I started thinking about it, got me into like doing more research about DMT. So my mom and I, whenever I was in 3rd grade, I believe, which was like the year before I met you, right? Okay. We got into a car wreck, right? It was me, my little brother, and my older brother.
You told me that a long time ago.
And my mom actually died in it. Like she had to be revived and everything. Wow. Like she actually flatline died, right?
Wow.
And she says that whenever we got hit, she ended up going into this like very open white space, right? Very peaceful. She didn't feel any pain, anything like that. And she was talking to her aunt, right? And just a little foresight, her aunt died when she was like 4 or 5, right? She was talking to her, perfectly normal, like didn't think anything of it, right? And then whenever she actually woke up, she was in a coma for, I believe, like a week. I think it was medically induced coma for like a week. Whenever she actually woke up, she looked to my aunt, her sister, and she said that Aunt Deborah says hi. And my aunt just started crying. Like you could see it on her face that like she knew that my mom died at one point, because I don't know, it was just crazy to me. And I was like, what caused that, right? Yeah. And so whenever I started getting into DMT more, I started talking to my mom about it more, and like just the things that she described sound so much like a DMT trip from what I've read and whatnot, and like all the different interviews I've seen about people doing it. I was like, that's insane that like just that split second she went from driving a car to talking to her aunt that was dead. And it was just Like, that's so crazy that this little experience, this little gland in our head has so much power to change our complete reality on everything. And it just sits there and just sits there, and you never know when it's going to come.
Yeah.
It could be while you're sleeping. It could be while you're dying, but you always have this drug in your head and you can't get rid of it, you know?
That's weird. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you rather live a normal life, a life in reality, or would you rather be induced in this coma and live multiple lives? So like you live a life and then start over, and this is all because you're hooked up to some machine and you get to just keep living life again and again and again. What would you rather have?
Do I get to pick the circumstances? Like, what do I have to quit my life right now to do it?
Yeah, so the minute you hook up to that machine, you are now giving up your reality to live in that machine. And let's say you get to live like 5 life lengths. And after that, you die either way.
Okay. And then whenever I'm hooked up to the machine, do I know whenever I wake up or am I just like completely unaware?
Yeah, you're unaware.
Man, I don't know. Theoretically, that sounds awesome because you could just like fix all the mistakes that you want. But if you don't know, then you could just make the same mistakes again, right?
But you get 5 lives.
Yeah. I don't know, only because you would feel like going into it, you could make the perfect life, right? Like you could live the perfect life. You could do everything right. But who's to say that that's going to happen, right? So why not just take the chance with the life that you have now and know that this is the only life you get and just make that life the life that you want it, right? And I feel like that's like a good thing to live by, but that would also still be like super sick. Like, do you watch Rick and Morty?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Have you ever seen what's the game that they play?
The one where they hook up to the arcade and Morty lives an entire life cycle and from birth to death, and then he like wakes up from the arcade machine.
What's the name of it? I can't remember, but it's super
he starts
funny.
crying because he's like I just died.
Yeah, he's like, you went back to the hardware store after you beat cancer. That's lame. Yeah.
I think you got the right idea, honestly. In my opinion, I think the idea of 5 lives sounds great, but it's almost like having a plan B. You're not going to live your first one to your fullest potential because you got the other lives, and I think it's almost like the whole cliche YOLO thing. You only got one life, so. Yeah, I definitely think what you said is, I think we're on the same page with that one. Well, AJ, I really enjoyed this talk, man. This was a great experience.
I appreciate it.
I'm glad you're here. I appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, it was good seeing you again,
Yeah,
man.
dude, of course.
Grandiloquent, I'm too damn cold, got 'em shivering. Can't bite my style, so keep nibbling. Can't bite my style, so keep nibbling. Grandiloquent, I'm too damn cold, got 'em shivering. Can't bite my style, so keep nibbling. Can't bite my style, so keep nibbling. Said I was only 15 when I saw the potential. Pulling poems in my pockets, it was driving me mental. Telling me to slow it down, we was keeping it simple. Till I hear the beat drop, then I pop like a pimple. And if I'm outside, got the J's on my feet. You don't really want the beef, catch a fade in the street. Had to tell them that in it like I'm talking to Chief. I only weigh $140, but you know that I eat. Damn, I'm kinda built like a toothpick. Damn, but they just mad they can't do this. Damn, and we just in it for the moment. Damn, I'll probably kill him if I zone in, 2C, drive fast, cameras and the lights flash. Money coming hot, so I'm calling it a spice rack.